Welcome back again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're having a good week. Dillian Whyte, as you know, returned in Ireland in Castlebar. He forced Christian Hammer to retire after 3 rounds. Dillian wasn't happy, called Christian a coward, said, he wanted the rounds. He wanted to shed the rust. And Hammer was there. 3 rounds was all you're getting. You're not paying me enough, I suppose, was the attitude. He'd retired anyway, Hammer. He had a little go, but he did clip Dillian with a few punches. I did a review of this fight. But it was kind of a nothing fight for Dillian. And the question is, of course, how far can he get back to where he was? Now, he's 35 years old now, Dillian. We cannot not talk about the PED test that he failed. I don't know what the status of that is. Status of a plum, as someone once said, maybe. But look, that's outstanding, and it has not been resolved. The British Boxing Board of Control have not sanctioned Dillian to fight. He can't fight in Britain unless he does it on the unlicensed circuit. He got himself a Texas Commission license. The Boxing Union of Ireland let him fight over there. But the question is, who's he going to fight? He wants to get back into the mix. He probably wants a big slice of that Saudi money. Who doesn't? But who's he going to fight? Who is a viable option for Dillian Whyte? Now, there are 2 ways of looking at this, I think. Number one is that leading promoters don't want to touch him with a barge pole because he's failed a test. He hasn't got a British license. I'm not interested in that. On the other hand, the flip side of that is he's got a name and he is a former world title challenger and he has beaten some very, very good men. So they might think this guy, even though he's 35 now and he's been looking vulnerable for some time, don't forget, 3 fights ago, Tyson Fury knocked him out. 5 fights ago, Alexander Povetkin knocked him out. He's been rattled a few times, not badly shaken. I mean, even Jermaine Franklin had a few moments against him. And Jermaine Franklin is not a big puncher. And Christian Ham was pinging the overhand rights off Dillian's head. Dillian's punch resistance has looked on the wane to be honest with you, for the last 5 years. I mean, Oscar Rivas had him on the floor. It's difficult. You can't get back that punch resistance. And my opinion is that, in fact, when you consider the wallops he took against Anthony Joshua when they fought, and that was back in 2015, that's nearly a decade ago, or 9 years anyway. It was at the back end of 2015, so let's say 9 years. Even so, I mean, he took a hellacious beating before he actually got knocked out by an uppercut. All 3 of his knockouts have come via uppercut, which is very intriguing. Robert Helenius shook him quite badly. Robert Helenius is a big puncher. Joseph Parker had him on the floor and he stopped him in the last round. I mean, there's always been, since that Joshua fight, there has been a vulnerability about Dillian Whyte. So if he wants to get back into the mix, he's got to be matched perfectly. He's got to be matched cautiously. There's got to be a lot of thought going into the sort of return path. And Dillian manages himself, and he's a fighting man. He says, I'll fight anyone. He always has tough spars. He's a fighting man, Now, I'm not going to brush under the carpet the failed PED tests, all right, because you can't do that. He was banned once early on for a supplement over-the-counter thing that he drank. I think he had a 2-year ban. He came back. There was the issue with the Oscar Rivas supposed failed test. He failed one, the build-up to the AJ rematch, which he had to bail out of. He still hasn't got a license. I just wonder who's going to want to use him. And I use the phrase use him wisely because I think that's what promoters, if they do sign him up, that's what they're going to want to do, use him as kind of food for, it could be anyone. It could be, I don't know, Bacoli. There's a bit of beef between Bacoli and Whyte. Someone suggested, I think it was Lee from Inside the Distance, suggested Dillian Whyte against Big Baby Miller. That would be a good scrap. Dubois, maybe. If you're talking about the other side of the Atlantic, Frank Sanchez is based there. That would be an intriguing fight. What about a comeback in Wilder, maybe, against Dillian? They've had beef for a long, long time. There are options for Dillian. I think we've seen the best of him, and I think his punch resistance is diminished to the point where if he's hit cleanly again, he'll be in a lot of trouble, might get knocked out. But he's a fighting man. He's still got that big left hook. Needs to get himself in better shape than he was against Hammer. But he did say in a post-fight interview he was weighing something like 290 and had to boil himself down. He's gradually getting back into shape. That's fair enough. But at 35, of course, the weight is difficult to shift. He's never going to be a body beautiful. Never was. Just a big, powerful man. But who could he fight? Who could he fight, especially without that British licence? Over in Saudi, would they have him over there? Would Turki Al-Sheikh go for it? I don't know. See, Whyte, I think, is kind of tainted with these tests. And even though he played that game very well because he was absolutely silent, he didn't do what Conor Benn did, which is the worst possible thing, and go on social media mouthing off and, make a big drama out of it. Dillian kept his mouth shut and went about his business in the hope that perhaps people would forget. We haven't forgotten. I don't think people do forget. Not really, not ever. But maybe, just maybe, he can sort of work his way back into a couple of big fights, pick up a few paychecks. I don't know. What do you think? You give me your opinions, your comments, and I'll have a read of them. And please, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe and please hit the like button as well because it helps the channel apparently, and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Really do appreciate your time. Thoughts about Dillian Whyte? Who should he face next? Has he got anything left? You tell me your opinions and I'll have a look at them. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.